Was he right?
Basically.
Was Trump right?
He was basically right, particularly in the international affairs role. He was deeply interested in trade. Biden doesn't care that much.
Really?
Yeah.
Meet Trevar Kolodny.
I work on issues related to chemical terrorism, and my agency within Homeland Security is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Trevar Kolodny brings up the topic of CISA's central role in fighting misinformation and working with big tech.
You've probably heard a lot about, like, internet censorship.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That's my agency. They've had conversations with Facebook and Google about these claims are untrue.
The CISA official Trevar Kolodny says Rand Paul is trying to take away the funding.
Rand Paul's like, I mean, a lot of, so he's like really trying to gum up the world. A lot of the times I get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I don't know.
Trevar Kolodny makes no bones about his dislike for Trump.
I am a registered Republican. I don't think that I could vote for Donald Trump after January 6th. Because people had this delusional whatever.
Almost every single person in the deep state agrees with the policies that Donald Trump has put forth are better privately, but publicly their hatred for anything Donald Trump forces them to align with the political narrative of what's the next way in which we get Donald Trump.
Was Trump right?
He was basically right. Biden doesn't care that much.
Our friends and supporters at the Wellness Company have designed this unique prescription-based medical emergency kit that is packed with 8 potentially life-saving prescription-only medications, including Z-Pak and ivermectin, which I used myself while out on the road and starting to feel a bit under the weather. Health is everything, and this is a great opportunity to order a Wellness Company Medical Emergency Kit. The Wellness Company Medical Emergency Kit stands ready to treat over 30 common ailments, ensuring you'll have access to vital medications when you need them most. And now save $45 per kit when you order using the code OMG. Get ready to write this down. Get your Wellness Company Medical Emergency Kit at twc.health/OMG. That's twc.health/OMG. That's twc.health/OMG. And save $45 per kit today when you use code OMG. Meet Trevar Kolodny, a senior policy analyst at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA. Trevar shared that his current role within the federal government under the Department of Homeland Security is to handle chemical terrorism.
So I work for an agency within Homeland Security.
It's part of the Homeland Security?
Yeah. So that basically regulates chemical facilities.
Really?
Yeah. So to make sure that, facilities that work with chemicals supposedly like a military level of risk have like a concomitant level of protections in place.
So that's it. So you have a very it's like a matter of national security.
Is it what?
Matter of national security.
Well, yeah.
Is it classified?
Some of it, absolutely.
And how long have you worked there?
There for since August.
Oh, it's August, that's right.
Right.
And that's
and then before that, I had been working at Treasury, which is where the alcohol stuff was, since January of 2018.
Trevar Kolodny, a senior policy analyst at CISA during our undercover work, brings up the topic of CISA's central role in fighting misinformation and working with big tech.
You've probably heard a lot about internet censorship.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That's my agency.
That's your
agency.
They're trying.
They're
to
the ones
censor.
that are
accused.
They wouldn't use the word censorship.
What would they say?
It's their actions that are being criticized.
So
they're saying that they're fighting misinformation.
Oh, I understand. Your agency, the group you work for, is fighting misinformation on the internet.
Right.
Rand Paul's
and the Republicans are like, this isn't misinformation, you're censoring.
So are you guys you're going online and you're trying to find misinformation?
Pardon?
Your agency goes online, tries to find misinformation, and get rid of it.
I mean, that's part of it, and they've had conversations with Facebook and Google about these claims are untrue. And some of them have been, there's been a whole lot.
A House Judiciary report released last year talked about CISA using infrastructure to combat misinformation. The report showed CISA colluded with big tech to censor Americans by maintaining online portals to big tech companies through which they submitted censorship directives for official corporate action. The Select Subcommittee has also convened 2 hearings on the subject of social media censorship and published an interim staff report exposing the FTC's politically motivated harassment campaign against Elon Musk's X, formerly Twitter. In 2021, CISA had a formal mis, dis, and malinformation team, with CISA Director Jen Easterly saying, quote, "Building that resilience to misinformation and disinformation, I think, is incredibly important." Easterly even stated in a text to a Microsoft executive who formerly worked at CISA, Matthew Masterson, that she is, quote, "trying to get us in a place where Fed can work with platforms to better understand mis-dis trends, so relevant agencies can try to pre-bunk, debunk as useful." Another congressional report, the weaponization of disinformation, indicated that my name was listed as one of the accounts being targeted by CISA. CISA worked with the Election Integrity Project, that's the group that coordinated with the New York Times to call me disinformation in that front page article from September of 2022, to censor information related to voter fraud. Rand Paul has been a big CISA critic, saying CISA has, quote, "blatantly violated the First Amendment and colluded with big tech to censor the speech of ordinary Americans." Federal courts have ordered CISA to stop, but the trust CISA has abused cannot be restored until the agency gives a full accounting of what it has done, and Congress changes the law to create severe penalties for anyone who tries to do the same thing in the future. Even though CISA official Trevar Kolodny says Rand Paul is trying to take away the funding, Trevor says he sees where Senator Paul is coming from.
But there's one senator who really does not like, not so much my agency, but the broader Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And he's a very powerful senator because he chairs, or he doesn't chair, but he is the ranking member, so he's the head Republican on the Homeland Security, no, not appropriation, Homeland Security.
What's his name?
So, Rand Paul. So, Rand Paul's like, I mean, so he's like really trying to gum up the world.
I imagine you're not a Rand Paul fan.
Actually, it's funny, I wouldn't say I'm a fan. A lot of the times I get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I don't mind.
Trevor Kolodny makes no bones about his dislike for Trump, says Trump supporters are delusional, and he wouldn't vote for them due to the situation on January 6th.
To lay it all out there, I don't like either of them.
What's that?
I don't like either of them.
Yeah.
I don't like either of them. I am a registered Republican. I don't think I could vote for Donald Trump. I don't think that I could vote for Donald Trump after January 6th.
I know. That is so horrible.
Yeah, I mean, his people had this delusional whatever.
On November 13th, 2018, Trump tweeted about several issues related to Europe that had not been raised before by American presidents, such as unfair tariffs countries like France put on their products compared to the much smaller ones America had on our products. At the time, America pulled in about a third of all European Union wine exports, roughly $25 billion worth of product per year, while American wine made up only about 16% of all EU imports. From Trevor's comments, it's clear even to deep state government officials that Trump fought for policies that put Americans first, like correcting America's trade imbalance, while Biden does not.
I woke up one day where like the president was having an argument, or not an argument, but he was really like unhappy with the French. And he sent off this whole like tweet story about how unfair the Europeans, about all the horrible things that like the Europeans do to protect their market from American wine. They're favoring French wine over there. And it was just like, it was funny because it was like, I mean, and he had like a funny way of saying it, because you know how the president was. He was, and I mean, you know I'm not talking about Biden.
Yeah.
Like just by,
Tweet, I got that from TweetStorm.
Right, exactly. And, you know, he said all this stuff that was, I think it was probably all justifiable. I don't know if it was necessarily all completely accurate, but it's one of those things where you know exactly what he's getting at, even if it's not necessarily, you know. But it was just really funny to be like, you know, to sort of have to deal with that.
Trevar Kolodny, CISA official, then says Trump was right about the substance of his tweet in 2018 regarding France making it difficult for the U.S. to sell its wine in France.
Was he right?
Basically.
Was Trump right?
He was basically right.
Really?
And he would know. At the time, Trevar worked at the U.S. Department of Treasury, Alcohol and Tobacco, and worked on issues related to the international trade of beverages with Europe.
He was, yeah, I mean...
wow, as someone who worked there.
What?
As you worked there when this happened.
Yes, and it was cool because it was like on some level, and I mean, I'm sure, you know, I'm sure it wasn't like my chain upwards, but it was like so bizarre to realize, you know, on some level, like he's actually aware of my portfolio, and he's like tweet storming it right now.
Well, Trump was just tweet storming about France. Wow.
Well, here's the thing about deep state officials, government gangsters in these bureaucracies. Privately, he's not the only one saying this. And whether it's tariffs or the economy or the border or national security or the forever wars overseas, the thing about these corrupt deep state government gangsters is they are that corrupt because they know what they're saying publicly is a lie, and they know what the truth is, and that's what makes them so dangerous. This individual, even though he knows the truth and has spoken to about it and to it in private, won't do what's best for America and continue to toe the party line and lie to the American public just to achieve a political narrative. It's very destructive.
Maybe it shows that more of these people agree with Trump than they're willing to say. That's my takeaway.
I think almost every single person in the deep state agrees with the policies that Donald Trump has put forth or better privately because they're not stupid, but publicly their hatred for anything Donald Trump forces them to align with a political narrative of what's the next way in which we get Donald Trump. And the end result is, you know who loses? America. The country is hurt economically, financially, national security-wise, healthcare, education, everything else, because all of these career rubes in government have been basically bought by the corrupt deep state operation. And they know their only way to advance into senior roles like this one is to toe the party line of corruption.
Because we're doing investigations into the White House, the IRS, and now the Secretary of Defense, Pentagon personnel, I'm personally very concerned about how every move and communication of my journalism team is being tracked by our phones. The people who support us, millions of you, are rightfully concerned and worried about being tracked and having your private information compromised. One of the things I know for sure is that with the smartphone you are likely using, you are being listened to and tracked 24/7. They can see our texts, they can see our emails, they know where we go, who we call, which apps we use, and what we buy and what we browse. And by having an ad ID running on your phone, the apps you're using are constantly gathering and storing your personal information and using it to monitor you and to monetize our data. We thought our phone is the product, but the reality is the product is us, and our personal information is the product. And by the way, even when we think our phone is off, it's still listening. I'm excited to announce that the days of our phones harvesting our personal private information for the benefit of big tech and big government ends right now. Because of a new smartphone developed by Eric Prince, the phone is called Unplugged. Unplugged is built with a totally independent operating system that is absolutely secure. No tracking us in apps. Every call and text is end-to-end encrypted. They can't listen in or follow our online activity, and if we were ever under threat, we can send a code and our data is totally wiped. And I love that it has the camera, speed storage, and chipset that rival the iPhone and Android. If you're like me, I've had it as a journalist or any citizen that wants to protect their privacy. I've had it with all of my personal and private information being exposed and exploited by big tech and big government. So I'm joining Eric Prince, Mr. Pentagon Guy, and I'm switching to my new unplugged phone. And I'm also going to tell you how you can also. So grab a pen, write this down. To protect your privacy and get your very own unplugged phone, that's unplugged.com/OMG. That's unplugged.com/OMG. Take your privacy back. Unplugged.com/OMG. CISA cybersecurity analyst Trevar Kolodny highlights Biden's stance on trade by stating, quote, Biden is not interested in international relations. Trevar actually applauds Trump when he mentions that Trump was deeply interested in trade.
He was, one thing that I really enjoyed working with the Trump administration was that he was, particularly in the international affairs role, he was deeply interested in trade. Right, like he was renegotiating trade agreements, he was trying to negotiate new ones, he was imposing tariffs on people, he was demanding, the current president doesn't really care about trade.
Really?
Which is part of why, I mean, the main reason I changed my job was, I got a promotion offer, so you go with the promotion. But one of the big reasons I chose not to go the international route, but chose the domestic route, was nothing's going on in the international route right now.
Why do you think that is? Why isn't Biden as
Because
good
Biden doesn't care about trade.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think that your colleagues and people that you worked with wanted to admit that Trump was right?
Do they think that they what?
They wanted to admit that Trump was right?
Well, so most of the people that I worked with probably weren't really aware of it. I know my boss was, and I know that one of my colleagues was, because I only shared that portfolio with one other person.
If you're on the inside of one of these government agencies or part of a large corporation and have evidence of wrongdoing, DM us on X and Instagram. Go to tips.o'keefemediagroup.com and reach out to our signal number, 914-315-9415. And if you want to be the next American swiper and get paid for capturing a story, go to o'keefemediagroup.com/swiper and sign up today.